Durham region. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hey, what's good, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Players Corner with Karim Grant. I'm your host, Karim Grant. Today, we have another very special guest joining us via Zoom, none other than the Canadian broadcasting legend himself, Tim McAuliffe. Tim, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. For a second there, when you said Canadian broadcast legend, I thought you were talking about somebody else. So I was looking behind to see if there's another guest here, Karim.
You're a walking legend. If there was a movie about you, it'd be you in I Am Legend walking down the streets of Toronto with your dog by yourself, just taking care of business, buddy. Yes. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I got a good dog. I don't want to get to halfway through that movie because that is a tearjerker at the end, but I am very well. I'm 2021 good is what I say these days.
Yeah.
We're all kind of faced with all these challenges around us, but after the first little bit, I've been pretty good at persevering.
Well, no, man, you guys are doing a phenomenal job over there, man. I really appreciate you joining us today, man. Listen, we do this show because we want to get some inside stories. We want to find out about guys' journey to where they got to and how they got there. So tell me a bit about your start. I know you're from Scarborough.
Yeah, I lived along the Scarborough North York border, and I went to Carleton in Ottawa for school, and I kept telling people I was from North York, and they would be like, "Oh, like Keele," and I'm like, "No, Victoria Park," and everyone just kept saying Scarborough, Scarborough, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I rep Scarborough more than I rep what I believe to be the persona of Scarborough man. So I just said, you know what? Yes, I'm from Scarborough, and then it just kind of stuck. And I figured if my 7-Eleven as a youth was in Scarborough, then we can say that we're from Scarborough. Yeah, because in actuality, I'm lying. I'm actually from North York / Don Mills, but right along that. But my son right now, I'm repping. He plays for Scarborough Stingers baseball. Like, we're still in the neighborhood. We still are kind of Scarborough. So my origin story is pretty easy. I'm a failed athlete in a family of pretty good athletes, save for myself, and I just tried to find a way to stick in and around sports. And I started thinking about all the vocations, all the jobs that you get. And I thought, to be honest with you, I wanted to be a camera person at live events so that I could watch games for free because I just love sports.
Right.
And so I figured, I'll get into the TV industry. I went to Carleton for journalism. Had some tough times in my personal life. I lost one of my brothers and came home. And I was working at Bell Mobility, and I literally was like kind of lost soul and called the Score television network, which at that point was Headline Sports, out of the blue and said, I'd really like to volunteer. I tried at TSN, I tried at City TV, I tried, the local Rogers station. I couldn't get in anywhere. And so finally someone said yes, probably like a year into cold calling people.
Wow.
It was Headline Sports / The Score.
So who was that person that gave you your first shot?
John Melville was the guy's name. And
shout out to him.
Yes, very huge. And The Score was like this crazy breeding ground of talent. So I started as an intern, so working for free. And on my second day, I met Sid Show. On like day 4, I met Adnan Virk.
Wow.
On day 5, I met Cabral Richards. Like, it was like boom, boom, boom. And it was just like kind of an upstart place. Didn't have a lot of money. We're taking in a lot of interns and giving people opportunities that, frankly, we didn't really deserve.
Right.
But we were there and working really hard, and a bunch of us got shots. But it's crazy to think back to, I guess, like late 1999, 2000. And, guys like Virk, who's killing it in the States, Cabby, who's in the States right now with Bleacher Report, and most people know from his time at TSN and The Score and Sportsnet. He's been everywhere. And Sid Show now on Breakfast Television. Like, all of us started as interns together, which is crazy.
That's incredible. You guys are like the Bad Boy Records of Canada back then, right? Of broadcasting.
Bad Boy for life. Yeah,
Right.
I guess we've never been able to get away from it.
I don't know who the Puffy was. I don't know who the Biggie
Yeah.
was. You might have been Mace. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh, Mace.
Yeah. So
I gotta take a drink on Mace. Well, I guess I am a preacher-like at times.
Well, I guess so. You got the glasses. You look very refined in the glasses, right? So, so how did the manifestation of that relationship with Sid start?
To be honest with you, we are. I mean, I guess people who watch the show know we're remarkably different dudes. And I was really tight with Cabby, and Adnan kind of came and then left and then came back again. Greg Sansoni was a real mentor of mine, and a guy named Damien Goddard, also a real mentor of mine. He was on Sportsnet for a while, and Sid and I we're almost like oil and water early, where I respected his game, but like he was always so critical of athletes. And as a failed athlete, I was always like, you can't be that tough on athletes. Like, and then I realized like this back and forth is pretty good. And like I respected his work always. And finally they put us together once. And it kind of clicked naturally, that oil and water, the difference of opinion, and yet some shared kind of common interests in like just pop culture, right, and doing it a different way kind of clicked. So we kind of did, I mean, back in the day, for people who are old enough, there was like, we would do day updates in the Score, and Martine Geyer and Greg Sansoni were kind of the main hosts of the network. And, you know, someone would have some time off, some vacation. And then finally they said, like, let's see what Tim and Sid can do together. And like, there was just kind of an immediate buzz in the building. Oh, like, this is different. This is new. And we kind of knew, oh, this could be something. Right. And something different that no one had really seen before.
No, and I like the take you guys, or the spin you guys put on the way you deliver the news. And I love the way you you bring in the hip hop references, the reggae references. Where does that come from?
Yeah, that for me, that was like just my upbringing and you know, where I went to school and all the people that were around me. Yeah. My brother was like a DJ. So I always had I live in the house I grew up in, and this used to be, I'm in the basement. It's been redone, but this was the crates. And I would just sift through crates of my brother's stuff. And, you know, Maestro Fresh West also went to Senator O'Connor.
Shout out to him. Yes, I did not know that. I did not know that.
I know he put in one of the lyrics, I forget what song it was, but he says, "Isn't that the brother that went to Lamb?" And so he moved to Lamoureux eventually, but he started at O'Connor, and he was good friends with my oldest brother. And in fact, he dedicated I lost my older brother, as I mentioned, and he dedicated, his first album to my brother. Wow. And Symphony so kind of, I always had it in my blood. And so when I went there, like, I didn't really realize, even when I went to Carleton and Ottawa, like, I didn't really realize not everyone was like me. Right. You know, like, I didn't know that not everyone listened to Biggie. You know, I didn't know that no one was like listening to Jay-Z's Who You With. Like, when I was just doing it because that was me. Right. And then you realize, oh, there's like, this is a place that hasn't been kind of serviced, especially in Canada before. And it kind of began. It was like, I mean, I've heard people talk about stickiness before, right? And it was an actor who said, when you go into auditions, you have to have a little stickiness to you, like something that differentiates yourself. And you know, the Score was a little different to start. We were kind of the little engine that could, and we weren't that stuck up kind of. We are here. We are, you know, TSN and Sportsnet had all the money. Right. And so it just kind of felt like it was natural for the Score to be a little bit different and cater to a little bit different audience. Yeah, you guys were. Yeah, I think I think that differentiation was remarkably important, and why so many people came out of the Score kind of make an imprint elsewhere.
For me, a major influence as to why I kind of got into this was a guy named Stuart Scott. Do you look at him as someone who's like a trendsetter? And another part of this question is, how is it were you able to kind of, bring in those hip hop references? Was it received well with your producers at the time?
There was actually, I had one producer who was like, he was a Scarborough dude, and he, he wasn't necessarily from like the same type of era or culture, but he understood that there were differences in people from having grown up in Scarborough. And he said, he encouraged me a lot. His name's Glenn McDonald. And he encouraged me a lot to just, he was always like, be you, because when the bleep goes down on TV, you can't fake it. Right. Like you have to be yourself. Otherwise, when it gets hairy, then, fake guy here doesn't know what to do. He just throws the commercial or reads the prompter because he's not being himself. It's literally Ron Burgundy, right?
I was just going to say that, right? Yeah.
So his advice to me was always just be yourself. And if it works, amazing. If it doesn't work, you're a good producer, because I'd done a lot of producing anyway. But I thought that like I used to get, it's funny. So there's a media critic in Toronto, and he would throw my lines in there all the time as rips. Wow. Like, what is this dude, one of the faceless voices on the score said, he's got 99 problems, but a pitch ain't one. Who allows this to happen? And in my head, I'm like, this is not my demographic. Like, and it was almost like, after a while, I was like, I need to get into that column more often for this dude to rip on me. And so it became kind of like, I know that there's people out there, and it may have hurt my career short term. Like, I knew there was people out there that respected it, because I'd walk down the street and I'd feel, I'd feel the love. Right. And yet there was like this establishment that never, to this day, you talk to Sid Show and he'll tell you that people still never really understood what our appeal was. Yeah. They just said, go do it because it's working and it's getting us ratings, but no one really understood why.
Now we're gonna go to commercial break in a couple minutes, but I just wanted to find out, do you think that held you back? We talked about, Cabral Richards and Adnan Virk going on to various stints in the States. Do you think maybe you being so urbanized kind of held you back in a sense?
Well, I think more just being an ugly bald dude held me back a lot. I definitely think that there was, and still to this day, like, I don't drop hip hop lyrics as much because I have 2 kids and I can't listen to as much new stuff. But, like, I still have the hip hop playlists on my phone that say, please be careful beside. And I've explained to my young children now what we're listening to oftentimes. Yeah. So like, I kind of, it's waned a little bit in kind of like my lyrics on air, only because I don't want to seem like I'm, making 25-year-old references all the time. But I don't know necessarily. I think it was a blessing and a curse. Like, I think there were those who completely and utterly didn't get it. But I also think like Sid and I's success on radio, especially locally in Toronto on the Fan 590, there were a lot of people that didn't understand it, but it was also because we were servicing an audience that had never been really serviced before in sports radio. Right. And we were just being us. We were talking about like soccer, talking a lot about basketball. And to that point, it had always been like, who are you going to trade to get Wayne Gretzky to the Toronto Maple Leafs? Like that was the existence, maybe a little bit of baseball with guys like Bob McCowan. But we were like, screw it. We're going to talk about pop culture. We're going to talk about the city. We're going to talk about basketball just as much as hockey. We're going to talk about, and in that group. So I got to cut you right there. We're going to break the commercial. I'm sorry, but you gave me the warning. I should have, that's my bad. We'll be back in 2 minutes with Tim McAuliffe, everybody.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
What in the world?
Seek.
I have no idea what we're walking into.
Are you a Nazi?
Explore.
I feel so insignificant. It's just jaw-dropping.
Take risks.
At 45 below, it's a survival issue.
It is real.
Here we come, Bison. Go on! Get!
Understand.
What is going on?
I'm trying to figure it out. Knowledge is the key.
Simple as that.
Go further with National Geographic. Now in free preview.
This is Rogers TV.
Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Players Corner with Karim Grant. Via Zoom, we have Tim McAuliffe, the great broadcaster, with us today. We were just talking about your experience with Tim and Sid and how that kind of matriculated into where you're at right now. And we're also talking about the Leafs and Raptors. My biggest question is, will the Leafs ever have the same success as the Raptors? What's your take?
I don't know. I think the flat cap has really hurt the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think Kyle Dubas took a risk in signing Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner for the money that he signed them to, hoping that the cap would go higher and thus those players wouldn't take up as much as they're taking up right now. So what you need is Matthews and Marner to be absolute monsters in the postseason to cover up for, like, so Svechnikov just signed with the Canes. He signs for like $3 million less. So now you have one less $3 million player, or paying three players $1 million less. Like, those are significant differences in the quality that you have around them. And I don't know if they realized it when they signed the deals, but you hurt yourself when you sign for that much of the cap. And this flat cap is going to make it real tough for the Leafs. They are going to need a goalie and their superstars to be absolute superstars. And so far, to be honest, we haven't seen that. Right. So the Raptors got everything out of their lineup to win a championship and got a few breaks along the way, a couple injuries.
Yeah.
The Leafs are going to need something like that. They are going to need Austin Matthews to morph into Kawhi Leonard.
I was just going to say that. We need a Kawhi Leonard.
You need a Kawhi Leonard, right. And Kyle Lowry, right? Like, you need Mitch Marner to turn into this Kyle Lowry, the dude who ever, and it's, think about the timelines here, or at least the narratives. Like, Kyle Lowry, up until that year, was the guy who couldn't get over the hump.
Right.
Mitch Marner, very same thing.
Yeah.
If eventually.
So are you saying Mitch Marner is our DeMar DeRozan?
Oof. Is he the Kyle Lowry or the DeMar DeRozan, Karim?
It's a good question. Good question. I'm asking the expert. What do you think?
I was throwing it back at you because I didn't have an answer.
Yeah, I don't want to say. You know what? I know Mitch's people. I don't want him to think that I'm trying to get him out of town. Mitch, you're a great guy. I love you lots, man. But you know, I just want to see Toronto be at the top for everything. That's my thing. You know, I'm just a Toronto fan through and through. I just want to see them do great. Just shifting gears a bit. You know, obviously I'm a CIS U Sports former athlete.
Nice.
And I really, really respect the job that you do when it comes to, you know, CIS football, or as it's known, U Sports football now. Yeah. And not just doing the job, but actually doing the work behind the job to know the players. Because when you do your broadcast, you actually know these guys. Where do you see U Sports football going right now?
That's a wonderful question. First off, I always believed in the athletes and that they were much better than the average football fan really understood. And maybe that comes from my failed athletic background, but I still think that we're in that spot and that we really need to start educating people about how good, I don't even care if it's basketball, hockey, or football. There's a lot better talent, and somehow U Sports has to engage the places like I work at Rogers or TSN to make sure that we're telling these stories. And the truth is if there were 300,000 people watching a weekend U Sports game, it would be on those networks. But we tried it at The Score, we tried it at Sportsnet, and those numbers just weren't there. Right. I believe in the if you build it, they will come. But the reality of the situation is that you know as well as I do, those are two massive corporations. And if the bottom lines aren't there, then U Sports is going to have to find somewhere else to tell those stories to make sure that people understand that if they tune in on, say, a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon, that they're seeing a level of talent that I think the head coach of Laurier, Michael Falls, just tweeted out, like, there's 91 U Sports players on CFL rosters right now.
Right.
Like, I don't think that the average CFL fan even knows that. And that's a failure of Canadian football as a whole. And that encapsulates all the networks. It encapsulates the CFL and everyone around football. We just need to do a better job of telling stories.
Absolutely.
And so that our kids will stay here and our kids will raise the level of the game. Like, I don't want to shout anyone out, but we don't need anyone going to Graceland. Right. We can send them to Acadia. We can send them to U of T. We can send them to Calgary or UBC
or Carleton
and raise the level. Yeah, or Carleton, where the K stands for quality.
Yeah.
So we can get them, keep them here with scholarships, raise the level.
That's the key, scholarships. Yeah. Why are we giving scholarships to these guys who are risking their lives? You know, for the sport, you know, I think that's a big issue, and I really take.
We're doing better with it.
We're doing that. We're doing a lot better.
We're doing better with it, but we're still not at that level where you get the full ride, you just bounce, right? Like, I think we need to get to that level where kids will want to stay here because, like, they have it in Quebec. Like, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. Like Laval, all those kids are on scholarships. They're on TV every weekend. Mom and dad can turn on the old Philco and watch them. And they do massive numbers in Quebec. And that's why they've been dominant for a while.
Right. So shifting gears again, January 2021, one of your good friends decides that he's leaving the Tim and Sid Show. It's now just the Tim Show. Where does that leave you?
Hopefully still with a job at the end of all this.
How did you feel the time? You know, what were the emotions you went through?
We grew, like, obviously you spend 17 years, I think is what we figured out. We kind of off and on worked with each other for, and then 11 straight or 12 straight. You work that closely with a dude, you're either going to kill him or become boys. Right. And we kind of became boys, and our relationship grew. And I had known for, a couple of years, he wanted to spread the wings. He wanted to do other things, and felt like, because we do we did 5 days a week. There was no time, like, you had to do the show. You have to know every sport. It's not specific. You can't play around. The audience will know you are faking it. So there was no like, hey, do you want to go and do some stuff on Hockey Night in Canada? And it's like, okay, so that'll be a 6th day of the week. Family is going to suffer. There was just everything that we were always offered was on top of what was already basically like a 70 to 80 hour a week job. And it was just so hard to be good anywhere else. And so I knew if he wanted to spread those wings, it would be somewhere else. And, a couple of places had flirted with him before. So it was kind of like years in the making. And then the finality of it was, you know what, in a pandemic, where all of us kind of reassessed, if this is what you want to do, you got my backing. I'm good with you. I bought him the bottle. And on the last show, we cracked the bottle like two dudes that had spent some time together.
What was the bottle?
And it was Remy.
Nice.
And unfortunately, I don't know if you know this, but Sid didn't know what Remy was.
Wow. He's not from Scarborough.
I gave him a nice bottle, and he cracked, and it wasn't like, it was like he poured himself a glass.
Right.
And like, you notice how smooth that went down?
Yeah. No, I always wonder about, on-air personalities, if they actually go out with each other after and have drinks together. But it's great to see that you guys maintain that friendship and that relationship because,
Yeah, we had heard a bunch of dudes hated each other that worked with each other. And for like the first 10 years, never outside of work. So everything was fresh. And then we'd sprinkle in, but we still didn't do that. We just tried to keep it fresh for the air.
Two things. What was your biggest success to date? And also, what's your biggest failure so far, do you think?
There are a lot of failures. I think that's like, it's almost like playing baseball. Like, it's like a game of failures.
Right.
if I have a blooper tape.
You don't want to see mine.
Yeah. Yeah. And mine early included a lot of cusses.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like if you ask me my biggest failure, it'd take me like 10 minutes to figure out what it was because there's so many of them along the way.
Right.
And I just learned to embrace failure.
Right.
Some of my best moments on TV were me screwing up and then just laughing at myself about it.
Right.
And as for success, you know, for me, that's just achieving. When I figured out I wasn't a good enough athlete, I wanted to do this.
Right.
And achieving it for me was my biggest success outside of my family. And going to watch baseball games at Nielsen Park. Like that's right now, that's probably my biggest success. And then inside the business, my biggest success is just understanding from being an athlete that I was going to have to work hard, or a failed athlete that I was going to have to work hard, and working my ass off to get what I really wanted, and putting in the reps and the work to get there. I will always hang my hat on that. That would be my success, is that I worked as hard as anyone for the opportunity, or harder than anyone for the opportunity to get to do what I was doing. And I happened to have some great timing along the way.
Absolutely. And the perks, you know, some of the, like having the media credentials to go into any stadium at any time is great too, right?
Yeah, there's been some great moments. I'm meeting like guys like yourself, meeting guys, having people come into the studio and talking to them about their failures and successes, like that to me, like, I mean, having we've had Mark Messier come in the studio and talk with us. Bianca Andreescu right after the U.S. Open was an unbelievable moment.
Is she going to get back on track, you think?
Yeah, you know, I think so. She just had a string of bad luck, but she's 21. Yeah. Like, we all kind of had a few years where we enjoyed the fruits of our labor. Yeah. And then realized, okay, back to work. Alexander Ovechkin did it for like 5 years, right? Like, got a big money deal, chilled for a bit, and then realized, maybe I do want to win. I'm okay with.
We've got 90 seconds until we get out of here. And it's the question I ask all my guests. If you were to speak to your younger self, what would you tell him right now?
Enjoy the process more. Enjoy the journey. Don't forget to stop and make sure you savor all of those moments, whether it's doing a Ticats game in 2005.
Shout out to Ticats. Husky.
I just traveling with the team, all the things that I did along the way. I think I was so focused on the end goal and focused on establishing myself and getting the recognition that I thought I needed. Right. That I didn't savor the process enough. And life's about the journey. You hear it a million times, and we all get locked into the goal. Yeah. Don't forget the journey should be fun too.
Yes, I like that. I like that a lot, man. Those are great bars that I'm probably write them down somewhere and use them somehow. But nice. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. I'm actually a fan, so this is a little bit of a fan moment because I like guys who really like what they do, and I can tell that you love what you do, man. So keep doing what you're doing, Tim, and hope to have you in studio at some point when all this is over. All right?
You keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate you having me on.
All right. This is the Players Corner with Karim Grant. We'll see you again. Until then, stay blessed.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
With a lot of this. Over the top rope, feet hit the floor, you're eliminated. this.
He saved himself! Did that really happen?
And this.
Why